Hey, what is going on guys? Joe here from JPRC, and check this out. This is the GS2.0 Trophy Truck chassis on the bench right here. Now every day there's a lot of things that you can get excited about in the RC industry, and today this is definitely the most exciting day for me because I just unboxed this thing and kind of took a quick look at this chassis. I mean, this thing, it is, I have to say, the pinnacle of scale realism. From the intricate cage that was bolted onto this, everything is machined aluminum parts that goes into this chassis. The whole design here, I'm not sure if you can tell, but this is totally production ready. Even though this is a prototype model built in a garage by the SS brothers. And you heard it right, this is actually built by two brothers that I know. They built this in the garage. One brother is responsible for the design and the CAD drawing and running it through in milling machine, and then the other brother is actually responsible for building the cage with this amazing fab work. It looks like it came from a brand, you know, something like RC 4-wheel drive you would expect in terms of quality, but this is strictly driven by passion. It is a complete DIY product. It also uses parts that are compatible with the axial score, such as the axle, and then some of the parts from the Slash, such as the wheel size. This chassis here is actually a shorter wheelbase. It's identical to a 110 scale short course truck at around 335 millimeters. But in terms of the trailing arm in the back here, it is actually the same length as an axial score. So that is gonna give you that super long travel suspension in the rear end right there. And one of the reasons why they told me they kept this at a 10 scale short course truck wheelbase is because of the wide range of bodies out there. As you can see, you can pretty much take any 110 scale short course body and bolt it right onto the chassis and make it into any scale trophy truck as you wish with the bodies that are widely available on the market today. Anyway, so let's take a look at some of the bits and pieces on the bench right here. On the left hand side, you get these two clear motor plates here. These are actually motor spacers. It's gonna sit between your motor and the motor mount. I will get into in detail for these one a little bit. And also you have the drive shaft right here. This drive shaft goes from 110 millimeter to 140 millimeter. So it's essentially the same drive shaft as a axial score, but this is the hardened steel version. And also they give you 6 body posts for small, medium, and large. And that's pretty much gonna go into different points of the roll cage for mounting a body on it. And they also come with these very heavy duty turnbuckles right here, made from stainless steel, and they measure about 6 millimeter. And also it comes with the RPM rod end with the high quality plastic on it. And lastly, on the right hand side, we have the sway bar set, and of course they give me just one sway bar link right here. There are gonna be optional sway bar links available, but the control arm right here is made from machined aluminum, and again, that craftsmanship just resonates throughout the entire truck. And I know some of you guys may be asking already, how much does it weigh? How heavy is it? And how heavy is it compared to different trucks on the market today? So let's put this on the scale. And this truck right there, the roller chassis as it is, it's weighing at 5 pounds and 13 ounces. Now if you compare this to the axial score trophy truck RTR version, it is actually weighing at 7 pounds, roughly around 7 pounds. So this is actually a pound and so lighter than the axial score as a roller chassis. By the time I add the motor, I add the battery, it will add up another 3 to 4 pounds. So that target pound of like 9 to 10 pounds will be perfect. Alright, let's put the bits and pieces to the side right there, and let's have a good look at this chassis. I mean, just look at this thing from the back to the front. This whole thing is just top-notch quality work, and I believe there has to be a lot of engineering that went into it. So let's start with the rear end right here. Now you get the battery tray in the rear end. I think that will fit a standard 110 size 2S or maybe a 3S pack that will go into your Traxxas Slash. Now having the battery in the back actually makes it a lot more scale in terms of adding weight to the rear end of the truck, so that when you're jumping it, it will be a lot more level, unlike the some of the trophy trucks on the market today that tends to be a little bit more nose heavy. But it's all about scale look. So that suspension with the extra weight in the back, it's gonna be very, very realistic when I have it running in the video. Now of course you got the fuel tubing and the fire extinguisher on the panel in the rear end right here. I think I'm gonna have to mount a plastic radiator from the Axial Yeti kit right in there to make it more scale. I haven't really come up with a design for the body yet, but we'll get to that later. And in the rear end right here, you get these 2 screws for mounting a set of spare tires. So I think I'm gonna pick up an additional set of the Proline slingshot, the sand paw style, kind of like sand scoop. That's gonna make it very nicely running on the beach. So on the body chassis right here, the roll cage, I mean, look at all of these intricate tubing right here. It is absolutely amazing. You get these 2 shock mounting position hole right here for adjusting the shock mount, and then I believe this one is for the sway bar. Throughout the entire truck, you get these holes already pre-drilled right there. Cut up a folder vinyl plastic piece and make a pinnacle on it if you want. And over the top right there, this thing, look at the profile. It doesn't have the boxy look, it does have the trophy truck. This is the most accurate, I would say, representation of a Scale trophy truck that I have seen yet. And then on the front right here, you got 2 shock mount position, and then this whole metal piece goes out to the front with this bumper piece right here. I believe they do have a couple of designs that they were considering, but this is kind of the generic design because you can bend this little metal bumper piece right here to make it kind of a curve a little bit to fit whatever body style you want to make on it. So let's flip it upside down. Everything in the chassis is flush. It's got countersunk screws all around, beautifully bolted onto it. There's the 4 screws for the gearbox right here, which is very easy to take off. There's the chassis uses a double deck design, so there's 4 screws on the bottom and then 4 screws on top for taking out the transmission. The transmission is a very simple gearbox. I mean, literally, this is a box. Once you remove the 4 screws from the bottom and the upper second deck, you can pull out the rear gearbox from the rear end right there, just like so. And as you can see, this box is a very simple, but it definitely looks very sturdy. It is literally a box. And then on both sides of the gearbox, you have 4 screws holding it in. So this is where it is kind of interesting in terms of design for this chassis. Again, this is a very early prototype model. So what they have went for is a very effective way of coming up with a gearbox without leveraging third-party gearbox. But I don't think if you have to like modify this plate to make it compatible with a, let's say, SCX10 or Axial Yeti gearbox, I believe they're just a matter of couple holes on the chassis plate to make it compatible. And I was told that they're actually working on a plate version that will be compatible with the Yeti gearbox. In that case, you're going to be buying your own gearbox with parts that will support. The downside with this design is that there's not an easy way to adjust the gear mesh. In fact, there's not a possible way to adjust the gear mesh. It is simply taking a 13-tooth, 32-pitch gears. They told me that the spacer plate, so if you have the motor shaft that's a little bit too long, and that's when those clear plastic motor plates will come into play. They are working on a different version of the gearbox, but for now, this is the one that's on it. And then on the other side of the gearbox, this has an output drive shaft that will connect to the rear axle right there. And speaking of the rear axle, take a look at this thing. This thing is heavy duty. This thing is milled from 2 pieces of aluminum, as you can see, clamped together. And the housing is clamped down by 6 pairs of screws from end to end. And also notice the suspension mount right here. It's using 2 screws right here on either side of the axle housing. So that's gonna add the additional reinforcement for it. It is also anodized in a matte black finish. And this piece itself weighs in about 13 ounces, and it does have a differential in there. It's using very heavy duty weight in there. As you can see, it will actually help with the handling character in terms of cornering on asphalt and on dirt. However, you are going to lose a little bit of traction on the very loose dirt surface with an open differential. I guess that's why they put very heavy duty diff oil in there that are sealed. And as you can see, the drive shaft, once you open up the housing here, it is super heavy duty. It is measuring in 6mm in the diameter compared to the 4mm in the standard AR60 axle. Now this thing is also extra wide. As you can see, I'm comparing it to the AR60 axle from the Axial Score. This is the reason why for the extra length on the width here is because you don't have to use the standard SOW hub. You can use a same size wheelbase both for the front and the rear end, so that is going to be perfect. If you're mounting a standard short course wheel on it, you don't have to mess with the SLW hub size difference, and it also helps to make the axle a lot more sturdy, a lot more beefy, and a lot more durable as well. And connected to the axles to the chassis are this pair of trailing arm right there. They have 3 adjustable sharp mount position. And also, take a look at this turnbuckle right here, the rod end that is connected to the link and the chassis. This thing is super heavy duty. This is industrial strength. It is made from stainless and it is very beefy in size when you compare it to the Vanquish steering link right there from the Axle Bomber. This is actually 12mm in the outside width. Heavy duty stuff. And then moving on, you can see, and then all around you get these screws, the bigger, these are 2.5mm hex hardware. And again, the whole truck uses hex hardware throughout. Chassis is mounted onto the base plate right here using these bigger screws right here, total 8 of them for the plate. And also you get 2 of them right there for the cage wrapping back around under the bulkhead. And speaking of the bulkhead design, let's flip the truck around. Like I said earlier, this truck uses a double deck design for the added agility. In the top right there, that's where the servo will mount to. And this steering linkage right here is heavy duty again, ball bearing throughout, the plastic piece and as well as the machine parts for these steering parts are amazing. The bulkhead right here, it's a single piece aluminum and you can see it's hollowed out right there for the added weight savings. Now, one of the most interesting design on this truck is the front end right here. As you can see, this is what is called the J-arm suspensions. And this is true to scale in how the real full-size scale trophy trucks out there. This J-arm right there, the shock mounts behind the upper suspension, and that gives you the true to scale suspension travel right there. And I have never seen any design from any manufacturers out there. This is the first of its kind. If you look at it from this profile, the suspension travel up front here, it's pretty crazy. Oh my god. Now, one thing I wish it had was the Goving design on the bottom. It's more of a straight suspension arm. But I think that is something they can easily improve on for making it extra scale. But as far as the bulkhead right here, as you can see, it's very interesting. First of all, the bulkhead is very narrow. That translates into very long suspension travel. But notice this right here. Let's have a zoom close up to it. You can see the suspension arm right there has a sleeve, a lot more smooth and make it very, very durable. Now, one of the interesting design, as you can see here, you don't see any capturing device like, lock nuts at the hinge pin right there, and that is because the hinge pin is actually captured by a grub screw inside the bulkhead right here. And removing the chassis will allow the access to it. So, and again, to remove the chassis, it is simply by these 8 screws right here on the base plate, and also these 2 screws under the bulkhead. And let me flip it around again. As you can see, it has this bracket that is pretty nicely designed in terms of how the cage is welded onto. So that is the clever piece right here. The side of the cage are actually machine cut. So the top portion of the chassis are tube weld, whereas the bottom piece, the mounting mechanism, are actually machine cut pieces. So this way it makes the production of the chassis a lot more easier and faster and a lot more efficient, because you had a lot more less parts to weld together. But this is actually the first of its kind. This chassis, having the chassis mounted this way, it makes it very easy to produce. Great work, amazing work, guys. And once you get the screws removed and you're pulling out the bottom plate from the cage, it's just like so. Very easy to do it. So maintenance on this truck is actually fairly easy to do. I did take apart most of it. Right now, I'm really struggling trying to figure out what is a good scale trophy truck body to put on this. And I have been thinking for a long time. The upcoming BJ Baldwin's Recoil forward the Tundra trophy truck, I think that is the paint scheme I'm going for. However, there's not a scale body out there that will actually match up to the Tundra trophy truck body. I know Proline has a body available, but that is a true scale Pro 2 truck. So that body actually sits a little bit too wide and too tall for it to be like a scale trophy truck. so I may have to come up with some clever ideas on how to get a body to look like BJ Baldwin's trophy truck. Alright guys, so that was your first up close look at the GS 2.0 trophy truck. I mean, this whole thing is breathtaking. I have to appreciate the engineering and the thought that went into this cage, went into the design and everything, and I hope that they will continue to improve this product and make it very soon available to the general public. And if you guys have any question about the truck, about the project, about the builders, put it in the comment on down below, and I will try to answer all of your questions as much as possible. And lastly, if you guys enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up and make sure to hit subscribe and ring my bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.